going on, everybody? Just per norm, I'm just getting everything set up. So this may take a few minutes to get going. Of course, I'm not getting any kind of feedback that... where are you? Wow, you are taking your sweet time. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, hello and welcome to another episode of What's New, just the kind of weekly catch-up show where I turn talk and interact with you guys for anywhere between 60 and 90 minutes. I'm just putting the link out there. I know usually the beginning of this is pretty boring because I'm getting everything set up. I think that's all. But anyway, I'm still getting a link out there again. Happy Monday. Hope you all are having a fantastic Monday. The weather for the Northeast right now, gray outside, but not raining. It rained a little last night, but yesterday's weather was really nice. Like it was low 70s with a good breeze all day. I actually went to a family birthday party. Brought a couple of board games, so might talk about that a little bit. But all in all, had a pretty good day yesterday. I'm not looking forward to the impending Indian summer that we were told that we're going to get. I don't handle too well in super warm weather, and I'm not exactly looking forward to having to be inside of a supermarket for work, having to wear the mask and all that if it's super hot outside. So for those of you who've been doing that for years, my hat comes off to you. I don't know if I could do it. Yo, hey, what's going on? All right, so we'll just get into it. I want to talk about something that it really bothered me, but I didn't really know how any other way to I didn't really know any other way to kind of like go about it, so I'll just explain. So I'm part of several, not several, I guess 3. One of them not even being like a YouTube-based group, but part of groups that are, small community-based groups where people like to share their YouTube comment. It's mainly for gaming. And there was this guy who asked a question stating like, what are your goals? And I told him, I said, if I can get 400 subscribers by the end of the year, I'm like, I think that'd be good. And he then decides to, he then tells me, well, then what you need to do is you need to go into Discord and you need to be following these people and you need to be a part of all these like 800 or 900 different Facebook groups. And like, okay, well, hold on here. There's a lot of things true with this. First and foremost, like I'm rededicating my time to my channel, which means that the people who were watching and I'm trying to get them watching again. So like, it's work. I'm trying to reestablish my base, and like the numbers have like I've gained some subs and I've lost some subs. So that's going to come in time. I can't sit here and pretend. I can't sit here and pretend that I'm going to be able to, pull out some crazy numbers. I mean, ideally, what's going to happen is I'm going to be filming more episodes to put on there, teaching about different games and have like funny little vlogs, and of course this. And then it's just going to grow from there. But from now, like I want to reestablish myself with the base and reconnect with the people who have subscribed to me. This guy goes on to tell me how I need to join like at least 10 more YouTube sharing groups and Discords and all that. And like, look, if people want to go and do that, I'm 100% for people going out and advertising themselves. There's absolutely nothing wrong with promoting your work at all. I know multiple people who even have their own Facebook groups dedicated to their own channel, and that's fine. But then it got to him telling me how to do what I want to do. Like I want to be a board game reviewer, and it's going to be a lot of that alongside with like, I want to kind of make a funny little show out of it where it's not just paint by numbers. It's a gradual climb. So he's telling me to join all these other groups and make sure you link up with all these other people and form a mini network. And then I go and I'm like, I want to know who I'm talking to. So I found out through a little detective work what his channel was. And he had, I think, 1.02 thousand subscribers. And I said, that's pretty cool. It's, good for him. I then go to look at his videos. And his videos, responding to a Facebook post that has nothing to do with this because, I'm professional. Yep. So I'm sorry. So I'm looking at the video views, and he has single-digit views on every of them, going back several months is to stretch, at least a month, and maybe some prior to that. He's got views like in the double digits. A few videos here or there. He has like over 80 views. And I started doing a little more research and found out that he is subscribed to a lot of channels, and his view counts are terrible. He has no activity on anything. And it really got me upset because I was thinking, like, is this really where we've come to now as far as like trying to grow and promote your channel? I can understand wanting to get a part of it by, doing something popular, but I've never been a fan of sub for sub, and something tells me that's what this guy does. So I comment back after he told me what I should be doing, because I told him I wanted my channel to be more vlog and like tabletop style and like with the occasional discussion on whatever. It's kind of a hodgepodge. I know I'm not going to get famous doing this. This is just what I want to do. He comes out right away and tells me, well, this is what I should do. And I kid you not, it was all based around like Fortnite videos. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to stick true to what I want to. I would hate to be a channel that has, 1,000 subscribers and no one's watching my videos. And he wasn't, I could tell he caught on because he had nothing else to say to that. And then when I came back and re-emphasized with him, I'm like, yeah, I really want to try to regrow my base again, and reconnect with people. And part of it is I really want the quality of these videos to be good. And then, I bought a computer, so that's also going to be coming. So hopefully better production value. But anyway, I need to replace this laptop. It's a mess. So yeah, horrible advice for it. It is extremely saturated. People want to get famous, and they think by latching on to a very popular like video game, it's going to somehow get them there. Sorry. And people just don't seem to understand that, no, it takes time, it takes effort. You really need to kind of have your own thing. Like, there's a reason why a lot of the channels that were super popular are not like becoming more popular. I think a good example, the Angry Video Game Nerd, when I first started YouTube, he was huge, but now his channel is like a very slow growth, and he's doing just fine for himself. But that's because a lot of other people got into the market and started doing it. And you notice there are people who just clearly are riding the coat trails of people who've come before them who've done better. So I'm not an expert when it comes to YouTube, but I will say this, that the more you try to be like other people, the less others are going to care. So if there's any bit of advice I can give to people, it's the more unique you are and the more honest about what you're doing, I'd say is the best. So, I mean, that's my YouTube advice for everyone. I just, like I said, I'm not an expert. I've been sitting at the subscriber numbers for a while, and my goal is to just revitalize my channel, and we'll see what happens. So, other than that, as far as new channels, not too many. I've actually unsubscribed from a couple of political channels because I've had my fill, and I think it's time to move on. I'm just tired of people who want to do a video like 8 or 9 times a day based on whatever New York Times article or whatever is coming from the Washington Post. I'm like, well, half the time you're wrong because you're shooting from the hip, and then when you go to defend yourself on Twitter about it, you act like a petulant child. No, it's not for me. So, the joys of Facebook. I will say, though, really excited as to what I can start doing when I get this new computer. So, yeah, new computer coming. It's standard. It was a refurbished model on Walmart.com, and the only reason why we got this and it didn't really hold out for anything else, the price felt pretty good for this. 2, computers are being bought up left and right by everywhere. I walked into a Walmart and every single computer they had was sold. They weren't even selling their display models. So people are buying computers because everyone's stuck home. So that means that give it like 6 months, 6 months to a year. I definitely think about a year. Give it a year from now, people are going to be trying to sell their computers on every platform humanly possible, trying to get whatever money they put into it. And since people are buying computers at really high costs, I have a feeling that if you're in electronics, the market is going to be a nightmare. So yeah, it's got an i5 processor. It's got a 1 terabyte hard drive, 120 gigabyte SSD. Motherboard, from what I read, it's a standard like $40-$50 motherboard. Comes with Wi-Fi, which is nice. 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, current generation RAM. No video card, and that was just the tower. And I paid. I mean, I looked up how much most of the stuff was. I definitely paid a little over. I think I paid like $50 over what it was. But again, I'm getting it sent to me, and it's got Windows 10 already on it, so I'm not too upset with that. It's going to let me do a lot better things now. I mean, for crying out loud, the CPU has at least 4 cores, which is 2 times the amount that's already on here, and it's got 4 times the amount of RAM this laptop has. I explained to a friend, I'm like, yeah, this computer is like if you took a hot potato, put it inside of a shoebox, and you put up like part of a screen door on top, and that is my computer in a nutshell. It's nothing impressive. But I'm excited as to what I can do with it when it comes. Got a monitor for it. I still need to get a keyboard, but just everything right now, just keyboard prices are stupid expensive. And I do want to get like a nicer keyboard and not just a Logitech mechanical USB keyboard. If I have to, I have to. But yep. So I got that coming. I would have loved to get a Ryzen build, but there's not a whole lot out there for AMD processor builds. And honestly, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's new possibilities. Means I can actually run better video editing software on this computer without, this thing barfing every 5 minutes. Because that's what happens when you hold on to a computer for over 6 years that you found in a recycling bin. And yes, I don't know if I told this story or not. I did find this particular laptop in a recycling bin. I was on my way to work and I was taking this recycling out to the bin. And in our apartment complex, they give you one smaller bin for recycling and one larger one for trash. So I go to take out recycling and I notice sitting in the top of this recycling bin, there is a pretty mint looking laptop sitting on top of just a bunch of busted out cardboard. And that's what this was. I brought it with me to work. I found out that it was running on like a previous version of Windows and it was used for someone's school. Like it was their college computer. And I'm assuming they upgraded and they tossed this. Everything on it worked. And the issue I was having was for some reason the Wi-Fi on it didn't want to connect everything. It kept saying I needed like some kind of password or something. So I don't really know why it was doing what it was doing. An idea that or a suggestion I was given was that this was it was set up for school use, which could even have meant this was used for high school. And it needed a password to connect to the Wi-Fi, and it might have just had a program set up with the school in which you had to be within their Wi-Fi range in order to do it. However, if I did connect in the Wi-Fi with the Ethernet cable, it worked just fine. So it automatically updated into Windows 10. That was a free upgrade back when they were doing that. And it worked just fine. I've had no issues with this computer up until the fact that, it's running an Intel, I think it's either a Xenon or a Pantheon processor. Only has like 1 or 2 cores running 4 gigabytes of DDR3 memory, which you can't even run standard games like on a PC with 4 gigabytes of DDR3 memory. So, yep, we've had this computer last a long time. It's done its job, and we're going to transfer everything over onto a hard drive or a thumb drive of our videos and pictures and stuff like that. And this will probably just go into storage because it's also got other information on that. Oh, and when I did eventually like wipe everything from here, I made sure that any info from the previous owner was completely gone. And since I had no idea who they were, I couldn't contact them. So there were pictures and there were videos, and I was thinking about backing it up and holding onto a thumb drive. And then I thought it'd be really creepy to just randomly have a thumb drive sitting in my apartment of some female college student. And I'm like, this would be really awkward to explain to my wife when she finds it. I'm like, no, I'm definitely not stalking anyone. You never know. I might bump into this random person somewhere in the wild. I mean, clearly they live in our apartment complex, or maybe they don't. I have no idea. So this computer has lived. It's done well, but it's definitely time to upgrade. And excuse me. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this new computer is going to do. So with that being said, let's get into some reseller stories. Now, I don't have many, but I put out an ad, or not an ad, but I put out a post in a Facebook group for people who want to like are in search of certain like gaming stuff. And this guy responded to it. I had asked if people were selling copies of Carcassonne, Dominion, and Stone Age. And usually people will just contact you directly. First of all, let me just say, this guy contacted me at 12 o'clock at night. I need to remember to put on there, please do not contact me on Messenger if it's after 11 p.m. or something. I can't be alone on this. People who've listed things for sale, people who want to contact you at crazy hours of the night. It happened when I was selling all that computer stuff. I had 3 people contact me at stupidly late hours. And then there was the SSD that I sold. I had 6 people who had contacted me overnight, all within an hour and a half of each other. Oh, my goodness. So he contacts me and he says, well, I have a copy of Stone Age, and I'd be willing to sell it for, I think it was like $50 plus shipping. So I know for a fact this game sold on Amazon. I mean, a lot of stuff you can't find on Amazon right now. Amazon's very touch and go with a lot of stuff. Stone Age is a worker placement board game. I'd argue it's one of the more well-known ones. But you place workers on the board, you collect resources, you build your civilization. It's actually pretty ingenious. A little technical, but it's one of those games where, as I've always said, you sit down and play it a little bit, you understand what you're doing. So he messages me 11:30 at night. I'll send this to you for $50 plus shipping. I know for a fact that Amazon sold this game $45 brand new. Sometimes a little bit more if it's not on sale. So I'm thinking brand new copies, probably I would say $50 new seemed fair. I asked them, okay, well, is it new? No, it's been heavily used. Okay. And I said, is there any wear and tear on the box? He said, yes, one of the corners is ripped all the way down the edge, but I wrapped it with tape. And I said, okay, what about the pieces? Oh, well, I can't be sure, but I believe one of the player sets of pieces is missing a meeple, which is just a little wooden person token. And I'm like, okay, so it's potentially missing pieces. The box has been damaged. What else? And then he says, oh, well, the center of the board has a tear on the underside as long as you don't pull on it when you're folding it. I'm like, okay, so clearly there's a lot of things wrong here. And I said, okay, well, here's the deal. Chances are, if I get this, I'm going to have to super glue like the ripping board parts together and hope and pray to God it doesn't further like damage the board by drying it out and turning it into a cracker. The outside of the board, that I do worry about, because if that tear gets into the top of the game board, it could warp it. And honestly, I'm one of those people where I want my games to look nice sitting on a shelf. I would assume it's the same as like having movies or video games sitting on any shelf. You want it to look good. You don't want it to look trashy. And I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'd like it to look good. So I said, okay. And it's also potentially missing pieces. He goes, yes. Okay. Well, knowing all of that, I told him, well, there's no way I can do $50 plus shipping. And I said, where are you shipping it from? He said he's shipping it from Pennsylvania. I said, okay. So you're literally the next state over. So I'm like, Stone Age is not a big box. You could easily put it in like a 12 by 4 by, what was it? A 12 by 12 by 4, I think it is. And it shouldn't cost you more than $10 shipping. And I said, well, here's where I'm at. I said, the box is damaged. As much as it's an eyesore, I can deal with it. Missing pieces and a game board that could potentially get worse over time. I said, it's going to cost you money just to buy the pieces, because there are some websites you can buy loose game board pieces. But you might have to buy them. But it was, yeah, you're going to like this next part. So he says, well, what can you do? And I said, well, I'm actually thinking more along the lines of like $25 plus shipping. And that even then, I'm hesitant to even want to buy it because you're saying it could potentially be missing more pieces. Now, some people would consider that like a low ball. I argue I could have hit them even lower. Anyone I've ever talked to, especially when it comes to board game buying and selling, it said if you're missing pieces, you're not going to get anything for it. It's gonna be painful to try to sell. There are people trying to sell copies of Pandemic Legacy on the marketplace for $10 who can't sell it. Why? Because once you play that game, you take stickers and you put it on the game, meaning you can't replay it the same way again. You can only play it you can only basically play it through one way, and the game is pretty much like almost unplayable, except if you just play it that one way. It's meant to be played as like a choose your own adventure. Legacy games, once they have like the stickers or the markings put on them, they cannot go back to the way they were. Like once you play them that way, they're done. But that game's also $70 brand new. And I told him, I said, well, I could do 25 plus shipping. And even then I'm hesitant on it because of the condition of everything and the fact that it's missing pieces. And he says, oh, I can't possibly do 25. That's way too low. This is a $70 game. And I told him, I said, no, I see this on sale on Amazon all the time. It's usually around $45, $50 brand new, and it's always free shipping from Amazon because I'm a Prime member. He says, okay, well then I could do $40 plus shipping, but I can't go any lower than that. And I said, okay, well then I guess we're not going to make a deal. So he messages me back this morning. He goes, okay, fine, 35 and plus shipping, and I'm like, No, I'm doing 25 plus shipping. And then he comes back. I'll get to that in just a second, Emily. He says, what is he? 35 and he plus shipping. I'm like, no, it's missing pieces. I'm like, and I told him, I'm like, even at 25 plus shipping, my wording to him on this was even 25 plus shipping means I'm spending $35 that I'm regretting. He goes, 35? I go, yeah, I figured, a standard shipping box, not flat rate, only costs you like $10 to ship it out. He goes, oh, that's not true at all. And I was like, yes, it is. I've sent out a box to PA, the exact same one, and it only costs like $9.70 after tax to send it. And he goes, well, I'm gonna put it. He wanted to put it inside of a larger flat rate box and basically bubble wrap it to all hell, so we could have a reason to charge anywhere between an extra $20, $25 of the asking price. And that's my next problem I have with some of these resellers. With the shipping, seriously, if you don't have to pack it in those larger boxes, don't put it in there. And you don't also have to put it in those flat rate boxes. That irritates me to all hell because there's no reason at all why people have to just try to weasel as much money humanly possible out of somebody that they're trying to sell stuff to. Like, put it in a standard box and stop being such a pain about it. People, it's ridiculous how much they'll nickel and dime you on shipping costs. I saw a guy, on the flip side of that, I saw a guy who was getting mad because he wanted a copy of Gloomhaven, which is like a 20-plus pound board game, which also costs about $100 retail. And he was mad because he got he got a slightly used copy for $60. Again, it's a legacy game. You can't go back and replay old ones again because they're done. Stickers are put on the board, pieces are punched. It's not that easy. Guy came back and said, well, because of the weight and the size of the box, and this thing is huge. It's like a small cooler. He got mad because he was quoted like $60 in shipping. And I'm like, that's not too far off, especially if you're using standardized shipping. And he goes, well, there's third-party distribution companies. And he's like, what third-party company is shipping stuff right now during an epidemic? Being brand new is important for value and category. Absolutely. Although I've gotten used stuff that's been like in brand new condition. But I think it's especially in board games, absolutely. Condition is everything. Nobody wants trashed up, trashy, beat up cardboard boxes, missing pieces. They're not paying used prices for that. I don't understand the flat rate boxes anyway. They should help, but they are way expensive. It works if you're trying to send something faster with insurance on it, and I would also say it works in like the regards if you wanted to send something that had a lot of weight to it, but it was small. Because whatever fits in that box, it ships for that price. Otherwise, you have to pay for the weight of the package and the size. So in some situations, it can work. In other situations, it doesn't. I found out that standard shipping envelopes for video games go a long, long way. So I don't understand exactly what's going through people's heads when they do this kind of thing. It's like, do you not think we can't go to the post office website and like look at their shipping information and be like, no, this is what they're telling me. This is what you're telling me. And if you're going to include shipping costs in this, and you're going to choose an expensive shipping cost, and I'm going to lower my asking, or I'm going to lower my offer, but some people don't want to listen. So whatever, I don't give them my business. I had another guy who, most likely the guy wasn't sitting on that board game long enough. I don't know. I don't know. I told him no, because it was missing pieces and the condition was not good. I had another guy who said he was unloading a bunch of board games to me, none of which are ones that I asked for, but I was just like, sure, maybe there's something in there that catches my eye. Nothing. They were all like cheapo kids games that I see at Target and Five Below all the time. This guy was asking $15 a piece on stuff that I know sells at Five Below for $5 each. And I said, $15 for this. He goes, what? It's a popular game. And I said, right. It's also a game I can get at Five Below for $5. And he goes, oh, good luck doing that now with everything closed. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not in a hurry to get it. His thing was he'll stockpile crap nobody wants and hope to God that he can unload it to people with the excuse, oh, everything's closed. Just buy it. Buy it at my asking price. You know you want it for that. So, no, he went and he just stockpiled a bunch of useless collector stuff, which is Five Below. I like the store, but... Father God, forgive that sinner. Yes, please do. Please do. So I'm like, no, those are $5. Those are $5 games. I see them at Five Below all the time. They're generic knockoff games to all of those. The company's escaping me now, but they're the same company that like, nope, don't break the ice, ants in the pants. The same one as that, and these are just further knockoffs of all of those games. And I don't doubt that they're fun. It's just I'm not paying $15. And then it also said plus shipping, even though the guy said he was local. And I'm like, well, why can't you just drop him off? Oh, well, with everything going on, I have to protect him. Oh my God. Oh, so he's local. He's listing only locally. He's only listing for the area of Syracuse, and he will not ship. And he will not ship out of Syracuse, but he won't meet up with anyone in Syracuse. I got nothing. Oh, it's stuff like this that really tests my faith in humanity. It really does. Oh my gosh. Well, not a whole lot on the reselling front this week. Still going through stuff in our place, just selling off stuff I don't want to carry with me when we move. So we'll see what happens. I do a lot of Facebook Marketplace. I'd say it's like right now it's about 70-30, 70 favorable, 30% not favorable. It can be. Yeah, it's a dumpster fire. It can be. But I feel like you need to be very upfront and honest on on your ads, letting people know, hey, like this is what your intention are. Although I do have one last story, and then I want to talk about Final Fantasy VII remake. So I was going through the marketplace the last week, and I noticed that people were selling their services to build you the PC, the PC gaming rig of your dreams, the perfect gaming computer. Every single ad I looked at literally had the guy offering to build the computer for you, and he would do so, and the price would be anywhere between 50 to 150 plus, depending on the work he had to do. And I should also mention, he also said that if it involved custom water cooling, he would not do it. So the actual work that I feel like would need to be paid for like that is not being offered, because you have to fabricate and heat special tubing for water to flow through your PC, and you have to custom fit it to the PC so it can run properly. Anyway, these people are charging ridiculous prices to build a computer. I mentioned a couple times on here, one guy offered to give you a comprehensive list of parts for you to buy for the low price of $20. He wants you to pay him to write down parts of computers which he feels would be most compatible, and that you can go and order. So above all else, he's doing your dirty work, and he's looking up what motherboard you should buy, what computer chip you should buy, what graphic card you should buy, and you only have to give him the low price of $20. I couldn't believe it. I messaged one guy and I asked him, I said, well, it really depends on price. And he says, well, if it's more than 2 hours of my time, the price goes up. And I said to him, well, don't most computers take at least a couple of hours to put together, if you're going at a leisure pace? He said, oh no, most computers take upwards of 3 days to complete. But he had special training, which somehow made him he had some special forces training, I guess, which make him super computer builder. I'm like, okay. So I'm reading all this, and it's funny because one guy I saw who was offering like $200 to build your computer. Keep in mind, you still have to buy all the other parts. You then have to take the parts to him, because he will not build at your location. So for all I know, he's taking it and having someone else build it, which he knows will do it for him for free. And he wants you to pay to not, like, you have to pay out of pocket to bring it to him. You have to pay to have it shipped, pay the parts themselves, and pay him to do the information gathering. So what I noticed on this same guy's commerce profile, he was trying to advertise shoveling snow in the winter, $10 every driveway, unless it's larger than the conventional driveway. And then I go to read some of the, because he had a Facebook account for that too. It was all negative comments. Apparently the guy shows up and he goes, I'll do $10, but it's for the walkway. And if you want me to do the additional driveway, it's additional $20. So he's also a scammer. So I put up an ad on the marketplace. I put this on Facebook, talking about how I will help you build your computer for free. No need worrying about having to pay some total stranger who you don't know and you don't trust their credentials, who could easily prolong this thing forever, to pay you $200, $300 to build a computer. One guy was offering a connection fee to hook up your computer monitor. You want to know what that is? It's hooking an HDMI cable from your tower into the monitor. $50 to plug in your monitor into the computer. Always pay attention to these people's posts. They think they're experts. And I put up a post basically saying, I will help you build it for free. No more people taking advantage of you. No more middleman nonsense. I will help you build this computer, because why would you ever want to trust a complete and total stranger who's clearly trying to nickel and dime you for everything you're worth, and they refuse to build on location? I then go on to say in that post that, clearly this is satire. I do have some information on computers, but I'm not an expert. I immediately get a reply from somebody asking me a question about which computer, which CPU should I buy for the motherboard, and we chatted for a little bit, and I said, well, you're probably better off you would definitely want to get an Intel processor, because this motherboard does not support AMD. And I look at it more. I'm like, I would definitely want to get something in there that's like a higher quality i3 and above. I wouldn't want to go anything lower than that, because there's a chance you could possibly bottleneck your CPU if you put in a really old Intel chip into it. And then I got one person saying, I was like, oh, way to. It's like, I don't appreciate you doing it. I'm like, and I don't appreciate you charging $300 to basically put together an adult-sized Lego set. Like, if that doesn't bother people, then that's an issue. That's an issue we really need to look into. If you have no problem charging an obscene amount of money to a complete and total stranger to put together a computer, which is essentially screw in a motherboard, drop in a computer chip, push down a couple sticks of RAM, push down your video card, make sure everything's lined up, make sure all the proper cords go in all the proper places. And a lot of this you can do from just simple Yahoo or Google searches. Nope, need to pay this jackass $200 to go and do that, because apparently he's some super genius who's never worked in the tech industry in his entire life. But because this guy did the exact thing I'm saying you should do, which is go and look it up yourself, because it's fairly easy. Apparently I'm the bad guy. So that was pretty much my adventure on Facebook Marketplace. It was pretty fun. Good friend of mine told me I need to find other ways to occupy my time, and to which I say, what are you talking about? It's the perfect way to occupy my time. What else am I going to do? Should have said, what am I going to do, build a computer? No, because they're all getting blown up. Oh, my goodness. But I do want to talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, if you're not a fan of the franchise, I understand that. I personally feel like this game is worth people looking into and playing. But I heard some negative criticisms about the game I want to address, because I feel like it needs to be said, and it's just my opinion on the matter. So right away, I'm going to say this. Yes, I'm aware that the game is going to be installed in several physical format discs. I get it. I understand that. Am I necessarily happy about it? No. But they've also went on numerous, Square Enix went on numerous occasions, said that the game is going to be super expansive. It's opening up a lot of things that have happened in the original PlayStation game that were not there, expanding the world, expanding the universe, the gameplay, which is not accustomed to the standard game that it came from. I'm like, it's a remake. People misconstrue remake and remaster. Remaster is when they take that same game and they just apply a fresh coat of paint to it. They did that with Final Fantasy VII. They took it, they cleaned up the graphics, they smoothed them out. They did the same thing with the map and other characters, and they re-release it for PC. And then Sony and Nintendo Switch, they got the rights to it, and that they sold the PC remaster on their consoles, and it looks gorgeous. A remake is you taking the same game, but you're rebuilding it entirely from the ground up. It's not the same game. It's the same characters. It's the same concept, but things will change. The in-game mechanics have changed. The combat has changed. The story has actually changed. Not a crazy amount of change, but still changed, mind you. It's not what it was. And people argue that as a negative. I'm like, no, not really, considering the fact that, like, where this remake ends and where it ends on the PlayStation version, a little bit this way. The remake ends shortly after you and your party leave the central town, which is called Midgar. In the PlayStation game original, that only takes you about 5 or 6 hours. 5 or 6 hours. You've met several new members of your party, boss fights. Plot-wise, there's like one or two small things here, but nothing huge or substantial. Now, right now, I'm taking my time with this because I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm about 11, 12 hours in, and I've only had Eris in my party just recently. Aerith, I should say. In this game, it's officially Aerith. And people are already mad because they're taking liberties with this. I don't want to spoil it, but they're, I've heard what happens. I'm not mad about it. They're adding more with the character of Sephiroth to the main story rather than just he was a minor talking point, and then once they actually get to the village, like outside of Midgar, then they really explain who he is. I like the attention to detail they're taking with Remake. They're really trying to build some big worlds and tell some much bigger stories. And they're not completely relying on nostalgia, which is what I think a lot of people who own the who own the original game were doing. They're really banking on the nostalgia. And if you don't believe me, I mean, just look at how many times they overhoard the product over many different games and platforms just for you to buy it in some way. So I never really understood why people commonly confuse remake, remaster. It's not a contest. One just means it's getting an overhaul. It's just getting enhanced to make it look nicer, less choppier, less blockier. Clean up some character assets, clean up some of the rendering issues, add a few more extra little tidbits. And one is a complete and total from the ground up redesign. And people are arguing, well, they're not going to pay for their argument is, well, if the game is going to be getting released in several installments, they're not going to pay for an incomplete game. And I'm like, well, here's my question. How many times are you going to pay for Call of Duty? How many times are you going to pay for, I don't know, how many times are you going to keep paying for your Fortnite Battle Pass? How many times are you going to keep paying to buy the same game on a different console? How many times are you going to buy basically repackaging of the exact same game or compilation discs to play them on newer consoles or on different consoles? So it's okay for you to spend the same money on the exact same product because you can play it on a different platform. But when they clearly have announced from day one that this is going to be a brand new product, using the original license, expanding upon it, and stating, well, this first game is going to be anywhere between 30 and 50 hours, depending on what you do, it's going to feel like a full-fledged game. Like, these different installments are going to feel like legit, full-fledged games. How many installments do I think they're doing? I would love for them just to do 3, because, the first game was 3 discs on the PlayStation 1. I wouldn't be surprised if they did 4. But think about it. If each one of those games was roughly about 30 plus hours, I mean, even if they did 3 installments, that's still 90 hours. That's 90 hours on an expansive universe. And that's not including what this game already offers. You collect items in the game to buy special items. There's VR missions. There's custom I can't really say custom because it fills itself out, but a weapon customization. And, the voice acting is really good. The score has been redone from the original game. It sounds so much nicer. They've added a couple of new characters to the game for a little new flavor. They've kind of expanded. They've definitely expanded on the storytelling. They made the characters extremely likable. It's visually breathtaking to look at, and I'm curious to see what they do as far as like the next installment. And we haven't heard anything yet, so chances are we're not getting this for at least another couple of years. Didn't have the tab down. So for anyone whining and complaining about how they're not getting their money's worth, then my question to them is, well, remember all the times you go out and you buy, the new Maddens, the new, like any new sports game, the new Call of Duty, and you can argue that it's not the same. No, it's the same game. They just decide whether or not they're going to add a story mode or not. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm taking my time with it because I'm enjoying it that much. And I'm definitely looking forward to finishing it. I'm definitely going to be finishing it in June because, again, I'm taking my time with it. I'm not playing it in huge chunks. I'm working on other games right now too. I actually just started playing Wolfenstein: The New Order, and it's amazing. I'm kind of mad I haven't played this already, but this is good. Excuse me. So that's that chapter. I kind of want to talk about like funny work stories because been watching a lot of videos on YouTube of people telling crazy work stories. I watched one about a guy who was a truck driver who kicked his trainee off of his truck because he was very unsafe to work with, had a very bad attitude, and he was actually stealing from him while he was, his trainee was sleeping, or the trainer was sleeping. And I thought it'd be really funny to tell some work stories. So anyone watching in the comments, you want to chime in with a couple of funny ones, by all means, go for it. So I'll start out with this. So there was this kid who got hired to work with me at my current job. I work at the food court area of a grocery store chain, which I'm not going to say where it is. And I was tasked on training him. Now, I asked him right away, what's your experience? Oh, I've worked in all kinds of food places over the years. And I'm like, well, how old are you? He goes, oh, I'm 21. Okay. A bunch of places, huh? And you're only 21. So I'm like, that can mean a couple of really bad things. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to teach you some basics, and when you feel comfortable, I'm going to let you do them on your own. So I taught him how to do pizzas. Taught him I taught him how to do temperature logs. Taught him how to shut down at the end of the night, proper cleanup and what you want to do to make sure your department looks good for the opening shift in the morning. And I want to say after 3 days of training him, he learned nothing. He learned absolutely nothing. So after 3 days, right, he was finally going to be working not by himself. There's another person with him, but I wasn't going to be there shadowing him, telling him what to do. So he asked me, well, what should I do? And I said, if you have any questions, ask the guy in the back, the guy he's working with. He goes, oh, well, what if he doesn't know? I said, well, he's been here for over 15 years. If he doesn't know what to do by now, then he clearly doesn't know what. Clearly there's a big problem here. So I come in the following morning and I find out that not only did the kid not know what he was doing, but he kept bothering the other coworker. We'll call him Jim. He kept bothering Jim to the point where Jim basically just told him to get out of his way and he'll do it. So, okay, so he's retained no information. I asked him, okay, well, how did the kid do on pizzas? Oh, he burned everything that went in the oven. I'm like, oh, fantastic. So he doesn't know what done is. He doesn't know what to look for. He is not comfortable being around an oven and Like, fantastic. So he comes in. I kind of just sit him down and I ask him, I'm like, how confident are you feeling to work on your own while I'm just doing other odds and ends around the department? He says, I feel pretty good. I said, okay, if for any reason at all you're having an issue, just let me know. So within an hour, he's automatically yelling at me to come up to the front of the line and help him. He burned a pizza. I told him, I said, pizzas usually take around 10 to 15 minutes to make, depending on what you're making. I said, what you're doing is you're letting them sit for too long. So I said, do you have a phone? If you do, just set a timer. Just set it for 5 minutes. And then when it goes off, I want you to take the pizza. I want you to turn it. I want you to turn it 180 degrees because it's a standard oven. It's not a conveyor belt oven. So it cooks evenly on both sides. And then set your timer for another 5 minutes. And what I want you to do is I want you to check your crust. I want you to check the top, like the cheese on top, check under the pizza, make sure that it looks nice and brown. And I said, that should help you. And then like always keep an eye on the clock. So for 10 minutes, this kid literally sat and stared at his phone because he was so nervous he was going to, burn something. So finally, another few days go by, and my boss at the time said that, she's not happy with his progress. I said, I'm not happy with his progress either. He's been with us for, I think it was a little over a week, and his basics were just not coming together. So I told him, okay, well, what we're going to do today is I'm going to have you I just want you on cleanup today. Just worry about cleaning. So a couple hours go by and I go back into the area where the sink is and I go to throw something in the sink. And as I drop it into the sink, I reach my hand up and I notice that I am cut. So I drain the water in the sink because it's a steel 3-bay sink. And I notice that there are several chef's knives sitting at the bottom of this sink, which is filled with water. And it's filled with a pot and pan detergent, meaning I can't look in and see what's in there. So I ask him, why did you put chef's knives in the sink? Oh, they got to get cleaned. And then I started listening because that's when the attitude started snipping in. I said, excuse me, why on earth would you put chef's knife at the bottom of the sink knowing that we all put our dirty dishes in here? And it's not like I had to reach in very far. No, there was other dirty stuff sitting in this sink and it was stacking up and there just happened to be knives sitting on top of that. And I told him, I said, first of all, they're not even sitting at the bottom where it wouldn't be as bad. But it's a rule of thumb in the kitchen world, you always let people know if you have a knife sitting in the dish pit. Always. Because all it takes is somebody to reach in the wrong way and then they reach their hand back out and they're missing a part of their finger. I've seen people cut themselves pretty badly on stuff like that. So very few things actually get me red hot, actual angry. And I'm not talking about just sitting there and getting hot-headed and getting irritated. I'm saying legitimately angry, as in this clearly was done because he doesn't know. So I told him, no, the next time you're cleaning your knives, they have to go directly into the dish grates, or you need to put them on the shelf, the steel shelf next to the sink for everyone to see. We need to know where all the sharp, pointy stuff is, because if we don't know and we reach into this sink for any reason to pull something out, like doing dishes, it would suck a lot if I'm reaching in to pull out dirty dishes to clean and I cut my finger because he neglected to tell me there are knives there. So he didn't get it. he did not get that. He felt like I was overreacting on that. Okay. Later in the shift, I told him, okay, well, why don't you shut down the salad and sub unit? He goes, okay. 20 minutes later, I've noticed that he's doing all of this with no gloves on. This man is handling raw lettuce, tomatoes, vegetables, lunch meats, breads with his bare hands, not wearing any gloves. And I walk right over and I said, right away, I said, you need to have gloves on while you're doing this. He goes, I didn't know. I go, how do you not know? I am like, and I asked at that, and I was getting hot at that point about it. And I said to him, like, you said you've had numerous like expertise working in kitchens. How do you not know about this? I keep closing the tab on this. He goes, oh, well, I didn't know about that. I told him anytime you're working with raw products, you always want to wear gloves. Technically, you're supposed to be wearing your gloves at all times, but if you're making a pizza with your hands without gloves on, I don't think that's not an issue because you're putting it in the oven. But if you're working with cold product and if you're giving that product to someone cold, you need to have gloves on. If you're going from cooked product to raw product, you need to make sure you're changing your gloves. You got to avoid cross-contamination. This guy didn't get it. I told him no. And I'm like, I need you to go through and I need you to throw out everything you touched with your hands. He goes, why? I said, because you went from dish pit to that line and you didn't use the sink to wash your hands. You are literally putting your hands, which have been in the sink in dirty sink water, and you went into a sub and salad unit and you've been like flipping everything with your bare hands. I'm like, we got to throw it out. He goes, oh, well, I won't tell if you won't. I said, it's not a matter of me not wanting to tell. It's the right thing to do. I'm like, they have cameras. They can see us. Do you really want to get fired for that? So the rest of the night didn't go well. And just long story short, he decided that it'd be best for him to put in his notice because apparently we're too hard. We're too hard working of a people or a business. Okay, whatever. No, this is standard practice and when you're working with food. And I gotta say, for all these new guys coming in, they're like, I'm an expert. I've been doing this for years. And I'm like, have you? Because if you don't know your basics, we're not gonna get along right away. But this other one happened at my first job. I worked at a pizza shop in Liverpool. And I loved it. It was a great job. I remember it fondly, except for some of the people as well as the owner who had an alcohol and drug problem. So, what ended up happening was guy had got switched from closing at nights to he was the morning production person, the prep cook. And I had to show him how we made dough and how we made the sauce and how we made the marinade for our speedy chicken. And when it came to the dough, we had a piece of paper that was on the wall there for everyone to see to show you how to do how to make the dough. And this genius, I asked him, I'm like, hey, I need to go up front and I need to take care of the counter. Can you make a batch of dough? He goes, oh yeah, I got it. And I said, okay, just make sure you follow this recipe on the wall to the T, to the exact T. Make sure you read every single one of them. And it was outlined clear as day, so no mistakes could be made. And come back about 25 minutes later, and I noticed that he's cutting the dough and he's putting it into the blocks. So we had these giant plastic blocks that we put the dough into with flour to help them rise. And then when they've risen enough, we put them on oiled pans and we spread them out and we put them on a giant rack that we hold all of the dough on. About 20 minutes later, go by, and I noticed that the dough is seeping out of every open orifice as humanly possible. And it looked as though like the dough had decided it didn't want to become dough anymore. And it's kind of like if you've done you added vinegar to baking soda and like that volcano effect. And I'm like, I'm like, Wayne, what happened? And he goes, what? I go, what happened to the dough? Why is it doing this? Did you add too much yeast? He goes, no, I added a third of a block of yeast. And I go, why is it doing this? What happened? He goes, well, I don't know. He goes, I went and added the hot water and I made sure to mix everything else properly. He had a little bit of a hick accent, so that's why I'm doing that. And I'm like, oh, hold on. Hot water? He goes, oh, yeah. I go, the recipe clearly says cold water. Well, I don't know what the difference is. If you add hot water while you're making dough of any kind, it puts the yeast into overdrive and it overproofs and rises to the point where it's just a soggy pillow. So he wasted 50 pounds worth of product. And I'm like, okay, made a mistake. I didn't get mad at him. I just said, no, just make sure you read the instructions exactly. If something says hot water, use hot water. If something says cold water, use cold water. I said, don't try to cut corners. I said, let the other people who've been doing this cut the corners. Like if I needed dough, instantly, I'll use the hot water because then I'll immediately start like spreading it out after it gets made, and then it'll rise, and then I can shoot it in the oven before it turns into this giant sponge. So this it didn't get any better. He was the kind of guy who would fill an entire fryer basket full of raw chicken wings and would set the timer for chicken wings and then take the wings out and then start to mix them in sauce. And at no point during this did it ever occur to him that he should A, make sure like these are not sticking together, or B, cooked. He on several occasions almost served a customer raw chicken, because he filled an entire fryer basket to the brim with raw meat and just let it sit there. He didn't bother shaking the basket to make sure they were broken up and they're getting, all of them are getting cooked with oil. And he tried serving raw wings to customers. And he was told this many times because they're all portioned. All the wings are portioned in dozens. We told him, do not exceed 4 dozen. Or I'm sorry, do not exceed 36 in each fryer basket, because these weren't huge fryers. So finally it came to a head where I was like, okay, he got put. I had no say on the scheduling and what he did, but the owner pulled me aside and said, how do you think he is in production? And I said, he's okay if we absolutely need him. However, I feel like we have better people here who can do it. I think he's the right. I think if we put him on as like counter help and like clean up, and maybe even like put him on like subs and sandwiches, I think he'll be fine. So I was willing to give him a shot. So we put him up front to do counter help. I'm walking by the area where the door to the dining room is. I look out there and there is a crowd of people waiting. I go out there and I'm like, is everything okay? Did you need any help? He goes, He goes, yeah, I don't know what button to press. I'm like, all the buttons have words on them. What's the issue here? He goes, I don't know how to ring people out. So I start ringing people out and showing him this. I'm like, okay, maybe he doesn't know. And while this is going on, you know, he's just standing there taking notes on like a little like Mead notebook. And then I said, okay, well, it's just the two of us, so I got to go back there and I got to start making some of this stuff. So, you know, just do your best to keep people entertained. I go back out there, give everyone their food. And I said, what about everyone else? He goes, oh, I took care of them. And I go, oh, okay. Like, it's funny, I never got any orders for those other 10 people who were in there. So I go to check the register tape and found out that this guy was giving away free pizza slices because the pizza slices were already cut and put out there in like a warmer. What this guy was doing, he was just giving people free pizza slices and sending them on his way because he didn't know how to ring them up after I showed him how to ring people up. Like, okay, so when it comes to prep, not the best. When it comes to the register work, clearly doesn't know what he's doing. So I'm like, okay, maybe, just maybe, we can put him on delivery. And this is all within the course of a month, okay? We put him on delivery. I sent him out to a delivery into Mattydale. About 15 minutes, not far. I get a phone call about 20 minutes later. He's telling me that his car has stalled and he's stuck sitting out front of someone's home. And I said, okay, I'm going to send Aaron out there to help you. I said, what's the matter with your car? Is it not, like, are you getting power to it? He goes, I don't know. I said, well, what can you tell me? Oh, I don't know. He ran out of gas. Anyone who's worked at a pizza place, and if you're a driver, you know you always want to make sure you have gas before you start your shift. He ran out of gas. Thankfully, my other guy, he had like a fuel, like a spare, like little gallon fuel tank in his trunk, and he was able to fill him up. So I said, okay, so we're good. You know, I'm like, I'll tell you what, why don't you go to the gas station around the corner, fill up, and I'll send you back out because, you know, got to make that tip money. Send him out. I get another phone call 5 minutes later. He tells me his check engine light is on. And at that point, I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm like, what do you want me to tell you? I told him, I said, okay, I'm like, okay, drop off the pizza, come back, and just don't worry about it, right? I'm thinking back on it now, and that him calling me, I'm like, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know what to tell you. He comes back 10 minutes later, and I'm like, what's going on with your car? He goes, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, are you overheating? He goes, no. I said, is the engine light blinking? He says, no. I said, okay. So at that point, it can be a multitude of things. And I'm like, did you went and get gas? Did you went and go get gas? He says, yeah. I said, I've got a hunch. Give me 1 second. Go outside. Check his gas cap. He never had it screwed in properly. Like, that right there could be the reason why you might have a check engine light. If you don't fasten those on, and I'm like, most check engine lights are because of emission, and like it even says on your gas cap, make sure you have it screwed down for X amount of clicks. Otherwise, you could get a check engine light. So this genius apparently doesn't know how to put on his own gas cap, or he was in a hurry. I don't know. So that night, I talked to my boss, and I told him, I'm like, I don't think this is gonna work. I'm like, he doesn't know enough about automobiles for him to drive. I don't feel confident enough with him being out front, not knowing cashier work. I'm like, maybe he can just be a backup cook, and that way he can alleviate some stress on me or whoever else is closing. So he goes and he does that, even though I mentioned beforehand about his issue with like undercooking meat. So we put him on one night. He no shows. Comes in the next day, says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I overslept." I said, "Your shift started at 5:00. How do you oversleep that?" "Oh, I was up all night the night before, and by the time I went to bed, it was already like 1 in the afternoon." Like, that's not an excuse. And I'm not a boss, but I do take what I do seriously. I do take my work seriously. He says, "Oh, I overslept," and I said, "Okay, well, you no showed," and I'm. Granted, in retrospect, I shouldn't have said this next part to him. And I said, and I'm like, I told him, I pretty much told him, I'm like, you no showed, and right now we're struggling to find a place for you here. And he got mad and went to say something to my boss, who in then turned said something to me. Got upset because he felt like I was picking on him. Keep in mind, he was 7 years older than me. Like, I'm not making fun of you, dude. I'm trying to get you to wake up. You can't follow simple instructions. You can't run register. You don't know your own car. Clearly, come to find out, he didn't even have a license, so I couldn't legally can't even put him back on the road. Yeah, that was a fun. Found out he didn't have a license because he called me and said that he can't drive one night because his license has been suspended. And I'm like, "How long has it been suspended?" He goes, "Oh, it's been suspended now for 2 months." And I said, "Were you not going to tell me this when I sent you on the road last week?" He goes, "Oh, I forgot to tell you." So, okay. My phone is going off like crazy back there. So anyway, this guy, his last day came when he came into work. We all had to sit down. Every employee we had a sit down meeting. He gets up and loudly proclaims for the world to hear how he is the victim of everyone's abuse and how we should be nicer to him because I don't even remember. I think it was we need to be nice to him because we're bullies and he suffers from some form of autism or something. And and I said, "Look, none of us here are giving you a hard time because of autism. I'm like, no one here is really giving you a hard time." I said, "We're getting frustrated with you because you clearly don't know what you're doing. You've told people you do. You're unaware of your surroundings, and now you're putting the business in danger by lying about you being on the road for us, and you're not even and your license is suspended." I'm telling him this because he wanted to have his 5 minutes and his time to shine where he can tell people, this is what you need to feel because I have my problems. And I'm like, no, you're not going to have your 5 minutes because you've already exploited all of us. And you're clearly, and I told him at that point, I'm like, and you're clearly the kind of person that I don't think this is the kind of work for you. Right? Everyone else is like, yeah, I don't think this is working out. He ended up storming out. Oh, I mean, I'm of the mindset that if you don't know how to do something, don't apply for a job that requires you to know what you're doing. I don't have time every single day to show you the basics. I don't have time. I have my own work to do. I can train you to the best of my ability, but when I'm not there, I can't be, because he also would call me on my days off and ask me questions because he didn't know the answers to them about what he needed to do. He didn't know how hot the oven had to be. He didn't know how hot the fryers had to be. He didn't know how to make the marinade for all the chicken products. He didn't know how long it took to cook certain things. And I said, like, you don't know what you're doing. And I'm sorry, I don't get paid enough to sit here and my days off are pretty much ruined because he's going to call me at least 4 or 5 times a day because he doesn't know. Oh, so last work story, then I'm going to call it. So this one was when I was working at a hotel. And I'm going to say right now, if you have the option to work in a hotel, be prepared to have a lot of time on your hands. And I would advise you to stay away from the night shift and really seedy areas. I worked 3 12-hour shifts a week at this job because I also had another part-time job on the side. And one of those 3 shifts was a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, and it went right into Friday, meaning that I would get people who would try to piggyback off of the weekday rates to try to stay for the weekend. Well, anyway, I mean, I've had my fair share of people who come in and give me a hard time, but I'll never forget the one guy who literally pushed me too far, because this is the only time I can think of where I was ready to go and get violent with them, despite that's not me. Like, I'm not violent. I don't consider myself to be a tough person, but this guy legitimately was pushing me to a very dark place. And my patience with him was dwindling fast. So I'll explain what happened. So it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. Guy comes in, says he wants to get a room. I said, okay. I get the program going. I said, yep, I just need to see your ID. What? What do I need an ID for? You need an ID for check-in. Oh, since when? It's hotel policy. Since when? Since the beginning of hotels, I'm like, and I just told the guy, I'm like, sir, it's our hotel policy as well as every other hotel in this area. You need to have a valid proof of identity. Reaches into his pocket and he hands me his what is it? It's the non-driver's ID paper that the DMV gives you, right? Until you actually get your driver's ID in the mail, like that piece of paper. And I said, sir, I can't accept this. He goes, why not? I said, because A, this doesn't have your photo on it, and 2, it's not a proof of identity. He goes, yeah, it is. I said, and I told him, I said, no, that's not considered a proof of identity in the state of New York. I think I'm saying that term, the proof of identity. But basically, it's how the state, is able to show who you actually are. It's an actual form of identification that is considered on state level to be acceptable, when it comes to like legalities and signing contracts and what have you. So he goes, oh, well, I don't got one. And I said, okay. I said, if you don't have one, I can't check you in. He goes, oh, come on, man, I got cash. And I said, okay, I can't check in. I'm sorry. It's against hotel policy to check people in without a proper driver's license. So he leaves, he comes back in, and he slides across the counter a library card. His library card, which had expired like 2 years prior. And I told him, I said, sir, I can't take this. This is not a proof of identity. He goes, it's got my picture right on the NMF and card. Like, again, sir, it's not a proof of identity. I cannot take this. I said, and I told him what we could take. I said, I can take a driver's license. I can take a permit. I can take a non-driver's ID. I can take a passport. I can take a green card. And then there's like one other one that escapes me, but I'm like, I need those. I need those. So he leaves. And at this point, I'm thinking, this has got to be it. Then I see a girl walk in. He's standing right behind her, and I'm thinking, okay, this has got to be his girlfriend. So she comes in, and she's like, oh, I want to get a room. And I go, okay, I need your driver's license. She slides her driver's license across the counter. Everything seemed fine. And then she very snarkily, however you want to say it. She then says to me, oh, does he need to have an ID too? And I was just like, no, as long as one of you has a valid ID that I'm going to have on file and scan. Oh, you scan IDs? Yes. In the hotel industry, we scan IDs, so we have you on record. So if there's ever an issue, you're protected if you're ever accused of something wrong, and we're protected, so that way we can actually hold the guilty party accountable. So I said, yes, I have to scan them. And she goes, well, I want to have my picture removed from the scanner. And I said, we can do that after you leave and we check the room and everything is fine. We will, we can remove it. She goes, okay, very, very hesitant. So bring her in. She goes, what time's checkout? And I said, checkout is at noon. She goes, noon Saturday? And that's what people do. They think that if they check in after midnight, going into on Friday, that they're there until the following Saturday checkout time. And I said, no, you're checking out at noon today, noon Friday. Oh, but it's a new day. And I said, that's not how it works. So I explained to her how the check-in process works. I said, every hotel has a check-in, check-out time. And I said, our checkout time is noon. If at any point you come in before a certain time and check in, okay, you're still due to leave at the next corresponding check-in or checkout time, I should say. I said checkout time is noon. We had a strict, I think it was like 7 or 8 a.m. Time in which people, like if you come in after 7 or 8 o'clock, then you're good until Saturday. Like if they checked in Friday morning, like 9 a.m., they'd be good until Saturday at noon. But what people try to do is they try to get like the full day and then Saturday for like one price. And the weekend rates differ from the weekday rates. They're a little bit more expensive. So I said, no, your checkout time would be noon. They go, well, can we get a late checkout? And I said, I can do 1 p.m. at the very most. Anything after that, you'll have to speak to my manager in the morning. When he gets in, he'll be in at 7 a.m. Okay. So she goes with him up to the room. I get a phone call immediately from their room because the way the phones work in hotels is you'll see the number of the room calling you. So I knew it was them. Pick up the phone. They go, yeah, we need more towels. I said, okay, if you want to come down here and grab some more towels, I'll give you some towels. Oh, why can't you bring them up here? And I said, because I can't leave the desk unattended. So if you want to send someone down here, I can give you towels. Okay. So the guy comes down. He goes, I need a couple sets of towels. And I said, I can give you a set of towels because we don't just handfuls of towels to people. There were just 2 people. This guy wanted enough towels for like a family of 6. So he leaves. 15 minutes go by, my phone goes off again. I notice it's from the same room. I'm like, yes, front desk. Oh, I'm just wondering, y'all got any channels that have pornography on them? I was dying. I'm like, you're asking if we have like a paid porno channel? He goes, yeah, man, like those other motels do. And I'm like, no, I know we have HBO, but I don't know what's on right now. He's like, oh, you don't got any channels with adult films? I'm like, no. And then he comes down. He actually comes down and he asks me personally. He goes, hey man, you got any of them adult films on you? I'm like, no. He goes, oh, come on, man. He looks at me and he goes, I know some short, what was it? Some short, overweight, fat white boy got him some porno on him. He ain't getting any at home. And I'm like, wow, okay. And I said, okay, we're done talking, sir. He goes, oh, you know it's true. And I said, okay, sir, you can go back to your room. Like now I'm angry. I'm like I've been married at that point for like 5 years. And this jackass was going to start making it personal because, you know, he's up in his room with his girl, and apparently he needs the assistance of porno. And he's mad because I'm not giving him porno. I'm like, I don't own porno. I don't have it on my computer. Stop bugging me. And you making the jabs like that. Like that's 100% unnecessary. So he must have called down like at least 2 or 3 more times until he finally showed his face down there a third time. Like he called and asked, oh, if there's any place open. And I'm like, I don't know. Because at that point it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said, if there is, it's probably like gas stations and something. Oh, do you have any numbers for any cab companies? And I'm like, I have some business cards down here if you want to grab them. oh, where are y'all vending machines at? And I said, when you walk in, there's a lounging area that has a bunch. So this has been going on, and it's getting really obnoxious. So he comes down for the vending machines, goes to the vending machine. I noticed him start punching it, like not like little jabs. Like he is taking he's taking full shots at the front of this thing. I sit up in my seat and I yell at him. I'm like, excuse me, sir, you don't need to punch our equipment. If you need help, I'll help you. Because the machine caught things, and there is a way to wrangle it out. So I go over there, I help my wrangle. He gets what he wants. He leaves. Comes back immediately and says, hey, man, can y'all lend me like $1? And I said, no. He goes, oh, come on, I need $1. I need to get me a pack of M&Ms. I said, no. Oh, for real? Yes. I don't lend out my personal cash to people who are staying here. He goes, oh, okay, man. He's like, when I leave, you're gonna go there and buy all the candy for yourself? And I go, sir, that's the second time you've made a comment about me and my weight. I said, I don't need it. Okay? I'd appreciate it if you stop. And then I was like, letting him have it. I said, I don't appreciate you calling every 5 minutes and asking me stupid questions because you don't know what goes on in the world outside of this hotel after 2:00 in the morning. It's safe to say everything is closed. Okay? So I'd appreciate it if you can go back to your room and stop calling every single time you have a question. I said, if you have a smartphone, you can check it on your own. It has business hours and everything or whatever you're looking for. I could have probably handled it differently. I said, but you know what? He makes 2 comments about me being fat, and I'm like, you know what? No. First one was also tied into my personal life with my wife, and no. So finally 3:00 comes, right? And now is like when I start doing my end of day process, and I usually start it little by little at 3 and it ends at 4 a.m. So I'm in the middle of like going through paperwork, seeing how many we sold, how many are left, how many are out of order, what we need to do for the out of order rooms. I'm just going through it casually, reading them, killing some time. I look up and this guy is leaning across the desk, and he must have ninja'd his way in there because I did not hear him coming. He goes, hey man, what time is the free breakfast? And I said, it starts at 6:30. He goes, any chance I can get in that room over there and get some muffins and some juice? And I'm like, no, that door is off limits to anyone who isn't an employee here. He goes, oh, come on, man, I'm starving. I got no food. And I said, sir, that's not my responsibility. And I told him, I said, there's at least 2 gas stations right off Carrier Circle, as well as a McDonald's, like right around one of them, that are still open if you want to go. I said, I don't just go into the employee stock room and just give people free stuff because they don't want to wait until 6:30. Right? So he then goes, well, then maybe I should just go in there and get it myself. And I'm like, what did I say? I said, that would be a really poor choice. He goes, or what? What are you going to do? And I said, well, A, I don't have to do anything. That door is locked. And I said, B, if you want to go over there and start playing with it, I could very easily ask you to leave. He goes, oh, you're going to kick me out instead of, giving me what I want? And I said, sir, I'm done arguing. I'm like, please go back to your room, please. And you can forget getting a late checkout now. My boss had told me if people were difficult, don't give them late checkouts. So wrapping this up, about 4:30 comes. I'm already in the end of day stuff. My computer was processing going from the day prior to the actual day. He comes down one last time, notices that I'm dropping money into a safe. It's a floor safe, which you drop an envelope into, you turn a crank, and it goes in there, and the only way to actually get into the safe is if you have the key. He starts asking me how much money the hotel maid. And then right away, I'm starting to get nervous. I'm like, oh God, why are you wondering this stuff? And he goes, I'm just wondering, make some good money here. And I'm like, is there something you need? Right? He goes, I just wanted to see if it'd be possible to extend our stay until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And at that point, I got so mad. And I said, sir, no, your checkout is at noon. It's in 7.5 hours from now. No, I'm not doing an extended checkout. No, we're done and past this. And I said to him, no, if you want to talk about it, my boss will be here after 7 a.m. You can talk to him. And he goes, oh, I will talk to him. There's a few things I want to say to him about you. And I said, oh, okay, well, you can do that when he gets here after 7. And he's like, why do you got to be like that? And then that's when I started letting it all come out. And I told him, I said, I basically was like, you come in here trying to get a room. You don't even have a proper driver's license. And I'm like, and you're the one driving. I saw you pull in here. I saw you behind the wheel. You then come in here and you keep bugging me about stupid things which I have no control over. You make personal jabs at me and my weight, and then you make mention of my personal life with my wife. Thank you very much. You come down here and harass me and bother me for things. You're beating on the vending machine because something gets stuck. You're trying to hustle me for free breakfast food because you don't want to wait until 6:30 in the morning. And now you're coming down here and you're oogling where I'm putting the money in the safe, asking me financial questions of the hotel, when in actuality, sir, it's none of your business. I said, up until this point, I've been extremely patient with you, but as of right now, sir, you are one sentence away from having me kick you out of this hotel. And the whole time, like, he's getting all fired up too, right? He goes, what do you want to do about it? And I said, you know what? We're done. I said, go upstairs, get your female friend, get out. We're done. He goes, oh, I want a refund. I'm like, you're not getting it. I said, you've come down here and harassed me enough. He's like, oh, I'm not leaving. I'm like, you're going to leave because I'm getting, and I had the phone. I was getting ready to call the state troopers. And I'm like, I just want him out of here. I got a really bad feeling he's going to try to do something illegal. Like, try to get me to go into, like, I'm trying to piece it all together. I'm like, he knows that room to the staff room, it locks. So I'm like, I don't want to think of what would happen if he tries to get behind this counter. So he comes down with his lady friend, throws his stuff throws the card and stuff on the counter. She looks completely wiped, and I'm sure she's probably fed up with his crap too. He comes back inside, and he goes, I want those charges reimbursed back on my girl's card. And I said, nope, they're getting processed through. If you have a problem with it, be sure to talk to the manager. He'll be here at 7 a.m. Right, and then he leaves, and I'm thinking that's going to be it, right? But no, he's then standing out front, right? Just standing out front. I mean, what's the best way to describe this? If you've ever seen Trailer Park Boys, the movie, there's a character called Bubbles, and he just starts like whipping around a nunchuck in the air because he's mad and he wants to fight someone. That's what this guy was it looked like he was shadowboxing himself. It was the weirdest thing ever. So I'm watching this happen, and I see him like mention into the wind, like he's like peering in the window, and he's like making is like throwing like the gun sign at me, and I can hear him. He's like, I got you. He's like, I got you later. And at that point, I had enough. I'm like, he's bugged me to no end. He's made the last 3.5 hours completely unbearable. He's made personal jabs at me. He has not respected the property at all. He is constantly called and being belligerent and difficult. And I'm like, and I'm pretty sure he stole something because the way they were leaving, he then was like I saw him like, he ended up taking towels. So, but I can tell he was trying to steal something because I saw him like leave through, like try to come back in through the side. And then he ended up coming back through and then up and then leaving through the side to exit through his car. I'm like, he probably took towels or a blanket or whatever, which is not uncommon. So I grabbed the phone, I go out there, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, it's going on 5 o'clock in the morning. I've asked you to leave. You need to leave the property now. There are people who are sleeping." He goes, "Nah, F that, F that." He goes, he kept saying, "No, F that, man, F that, man. There's about to be a problem here." And then at that point, I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. I said, "I'm calling the police." He goes, "Oh, you're going to call the police on this? That's exactly what we need." And I said, "You're not really giving me a choice. I've kicked you out because you broke our policies and you're harassing me personally. You're being belligerent. You're being loud. Get off the property." He's like, "Or what? What are you going to do? How long is it going to be until the cops get here?" So at that point, I got furious. I got right in his face, and I'm like, I'm not somebody who likes to get into fights. And I'm not the kind of guy. Okay, let me back up a little bit. In my mind, I'm like, I'm not a tough guy. I've said this before. I'm not a tough guy. I don't try to come off as a tough guy. But if you're going to keep taking shots at me and you're deliberately trying to threaten me, I got mad. And I told him, and I said, "Sir, I'm asking you to leave. Now you're threatening me physically. So here's what's going to happen. You can either get in your car right now," because the police, I'd called the police, before this. I'm like, "I was having a problem. You gotta need to get here." I said, "They're on their way. It's not going to take them that long to get here." I said, "So you have one of two options." I said, "You can leave right now, and I can put you on my do not rent list as well as with her because I know both of your names. Or if you want to be a tough guy and start throwing a fist and you want to throw a fist at me because you're pissed off about the situation and I called you out on what you were doing, then I'm telling you right now, you better hope I do not get up. You better hope it's enough to keep me down. Because I promise you, okay, I will have you folded up like a pretzel until the cops show up, right?" And I don't care how corny it sounded. I'm like, I will literally hold you in an arm bar or some kind of like wrestle hold or rest hold, just hold him there long enough for the cops to get there for them to take him away. Because at that point, I'd had enough, right? I basically was just like, "Look, dude, if you're going to hit me, you need to hit me. But if you're not going to hit me, you need to leave. And if you are going to hit me, you need to make sure you hit me hard enough to where, you can make a getaway. Because I promise you, if you hit me once, I'm going to make sure you don't get away." And then I'm like, "You want to deal with that too? You want battery? I have to deal with tonight too?" So cops eventually show up and they talk to him. They just had him leave. Cop ended up telling me he's got a record of harassing hotel workers. So, and I was like, I told this story to a couple friends of mine, and they're like, "You are not intimidating by any means." I'm like, I know, I know, I'm not. I don't try to pretend to be, but I feel like if I at that moment I was pushed up against a wall, and I'm just like, I'm so sick and tired of being talked down to and being treated like less than a human being by just some idiot scumbag who just wants to weasel whatever he can from me and then get super involved as the financials, and he's being really kind of stalkerish. I don't need that. So anyway, that's this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about my crazy stories. If you got a crazy work story, drop it in the comments below. I'm thinking in the next couple of days, I'll definitely have a new video out, a relatively short one. So if you like games about dragons and traveling on the path of dragons, I guess, then you'll like this one. But until next time, have a good Monday and take care.